Well, welcome back to Money Talks. We're glad you could be with us. You know, every now and again we'll have a book on the show, but now we're going to officially start our book club of the month, where we can get together and read a book and talk about it later. The book that I'm introducing today is called The Longest Bridge Across Water, and it's written by a local gentleman, Mr. Jeremy Mangerchine, and I'm so glad that he's with us, and good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Ed.
All righty. First of all, Jeremy, tell our audience, walk us through the journey of who Jeremy is and how did you get to New Orleans?
That is a gigantic question, but let me try to tell you. I'm Jeremy, and I was brought here 5 years ago for a job. Okay, I spent the better half of a decade pursuing the corporate life. The entrepreneurial spirit was strong in me, and I wanted to be a successful businessman. So I moved, my wife and I moved here from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, a little over 5 years ago for a job. And then it began. This is where the book picks up.
The book picks up.
Yeah. So I was driving back and forth over the bridge every day, over the causeway, the longest bridge across water. That's where the company I work for was located. Day in and day out, and I was searching. I knew, Ed, I knew that I was created for so much, and I knew there was more. And I wanted to know what it was. During that phase and during that period of my life, God began to speak to me, and I began to encounter him in ways that I didn't even know were possible. And during that time, he began to teach me that he's better than I know, and guess what? So are we.
Yeah. You know, and so many people now, because I tell people, I said, God is who you want him to be. Some people call it the divine, but we didn't get here on our own, whether people like it or not. We didn't just appear. So there has to be a higher calling.
Sure.
And nothing, I guess, disturbs me more than to see people who are on jobs every day, Jeremy, who are unhappy. They're doing things that they really don't want to do. And I'm not saying anyone should quit their job, but I'm just saying, how do you go about knowing that inner self to where you can move and become go to the place you want to be? How would you just tell somebody, how do you go through that?
That's a wonderful point, Ed. And there is nothing more miserable than doing something that you really don't like doing. And I believe that everybody has a divine destiny, a calling on their life to do something. Whether it's business, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a banker, a media personality, whatever it is, we're created to do amazing and very, very wonderful things, to be creators. And for me, I knew, I sensed that urge within me, but I didn't know what it was. I couldn't connect with it. And when I began to get to know God intimately, he began to show me these things, and I began to be able to make sense of them. And then, so the entrepreneurial spirit that I had was a good thing. It was something that I was created for. But he began to show me, as he showed me my identity in him, the outlets in which that they were supposed to be plugged into. Hence a book project, and hence a ministry now that we have here in the city that we love. And it's because we're created for so much more. This abundant life is very real and exciting.
Well, we have doctors now, some physicians who were atheists who are saying, they truly didn't believe. They thought it was just what they did medically, that was it. But they're finding that there's so much more, and that there's an inner power and an inner being that's guiding their life. And this is what you talk about as you walk through your book. And I just find it a very fascinating read as well. And speaking on the line of that, because I've written a book as well. I'm an author, and I do speaking and that kind of thing. For people out there who are saying, I want to tell my story and share it with other people. Because, basically what your higher power has done is said, Jeremy, share the story. How do they go about doing that and getting their word out?
Okay, well, get this, Ed. In order to explain that to you, I have to do a little backstory for you, okay? Because during this process, as I discovered and as I got to intimately know Christ in me, Christ in you, hope of glory, through that time period, I picked up my iPhone and I began to type with these two thumbs right here. Without any forethought, without some grand purpose, I just began to pour my heart out. And during that process, man, when God began to speak to me, I saw so many crazy things. I saw God encounter and touch people. I got to be a part of stories that I never even thought would be possible. And he taught me so many things. And I documented those in journals. So I had a stack of journals about this high
Yeah.
that I had the leisure of being able to go back and reference as I would type these thoughts out. And before I knew it, without any forethought, I had an 85,000 word manuscript. And so I accidentally wrote a book.
Yeah.
I'm an accidental author, okay? But there are other people who aren't accidental authors. And my next books won't be accidental.
Yeah.
They'll be purposeful.
Yeah.
But isn't it cool that there's so many outlets in the world that we live in today?
Right.
The barrier of entry for an author to get into the market is lower than
Right.
ever.
You could self-publish like you did, like I did my first book, you know, and also just to write it down. It's something about getting centered and with yourself and with your notes and just getting it out of here, out of the core.
That's right. That's right. And part of that's tapping into your creative person.
Exactly.
You know, becoming a creator. And for me, it was discovering my identity in Christ, right? And beginning to put down those thoughts, put down those experiences. And as we progress in life, there's lots of stuff that you're not going to want to forget.
Right.
So for me, it was journaling,
Right.
and that became a book.
And journaling is so important. You know?
It is.
You have two kids. I have a grown daughter now,
Yeah.
and she still journals. My wife and I taught her from early to journal, and those journals really become her books, where she can look back on things that were happening in her life at certain points and know how the growth period has taken place.
Absolutely.
And I tell people all the time, whether we like it or not, most of us are authors. We're storytellers.
That's exactly right.
Particularly in New Orleans.
That's right.
You know, we're storytellers.
That's exactly right.
But take those stories and put them into something that can be read and that can help other people.
Yeah, and the purpose of the book is chronicling my spiritual awakening. And the purpose of that is to tell people that, look, this life that God pulled me into, it's for everybody. My story is everybody's story. Mm-hmm. But if you take that even a step further, it's the same with creating a book project. Right. That story is anybody's story.
Right. Right.
Anybody can do it. And we chatted about before, fear.
Right.
Holds us back from so many things. Well,
right.
What if people don't like it? What if it doesn't inspire people? Taking on the task of writing a book is huge. I never would have imagined doing that a year ago, and it's done.
Yeah.
But I just want to inspire people, not only spiritually to live that great, abundant life with God, but also to do things like write books.
And of course, we can get the book at Amazon. Is that Amazon.com?
Amazon.com.
Okay. I hope people get the book and read it along with us. And you know, I tell people, fear is nothing more than false impressions appearing real. That's what I think.
That's good.
We're glad you came on the show, and we will get back to you and let you know how the read goes. And we appreciate it. And give your best to your wife and your kids for us. Would you do that?
Thank you so much.
All righty. Mr. Jeremy Mangerchine. All righty. We'll be back with more Money Talks. You don't want to miss this next segment, believe me, so stay right here. Okay.